Well, hello and welcome to my channel. I just thought I'd pop on and just do a very quick catch up of everything that is going on. Yes, it is your friendly learner lawyer, Joanne. I'm here and I don't know whether my computer's going to cooperate or what's going on. It is the sun is out. We're expecting a warm Christmas day tomorrow because it is summer in Australia. And because it's summer, we expect it to, lots of people are going to be going to the beach tomorrow, and all sorts of things. Christmas in Australia is different. They don't call us the land down under for nothing, hey? So I wanted to give you a couple of updates on some things that are happening. First of all, we've been following the Brian Houston case. He's faced court regarding non-disclosure of some actions of his father to children, and it's been very interesting to see what he's had to say. He's now finished giving evidence. It was a very long and grueling week, and he spent the week defending the fact that his father got a golden handshake from the church. So I don't know whether it's an Australian term, but a golden handshake is when you get to retire with all your entitlements intact. Hello, Angela. How are you? Merry Christmas. When I look at the Crikey and Murdoch Media versus Crikey update, that's been to court. That's been to mediation. That's failed. And that looks like Lachlan Murdoch is trying to get that pushed out to 2024. He wants to add more people to the lawsuit. So that's very bizarre. Hello, Terry. I'm doing okay. Still very tired. I thought I was doing well yesterday until I started to do stuff, and then I realized this morning that I'm not, going as well as I hoped. So anyway, I want to give some updates on that. I've been watching all the YouTube drama because I've spent lots of time watching YouTube videos, lots of drama. And Katie Joy got to 100,000 Instagram supporters and now has a tick. She's still going after people. I mean, nothing's changed there, But look, so this is news.com.au, and they've actually done a week in they've set the week out in a timeline so that we can find out. So Brian Houston, in case you don't know, was the founder of the Hills Christian Life Centre, or Hillsong, which is known as Hillsong, and he was there is a big investigation into institutions that dealt with children, particularly Christian institutions, and he gave evidence there that he knew that his father had essayed a young man, but he hadn't reported it, and from there these charges had come about. Look, I'm happy to speak about Harry and Meg. So he referred to his father as a serial, the P word, which is very, very, very concerning that that it seemed to be, it was well known and still brushed under the carpet. So he dropped a series of bombshells over 4 days of evidence, where he told the court he has no doubt that his father was a serial P. And I'm sorry, I should really put a trigger warning here, and I apologize. I'm a bit out of practice. Okay, a bit out of practice. So there was a victim, and the victim, the incident occurred when the travelling preacher, who he was at the time, he was based in New Zealand, and he was visiting New South Wales, and was visiting, I think he was staying with the family, if my memory serves me correctly. So when he essayed the boy. So Brian Houston vehemently denies the claims and says his decision to not go to the police when he learned of his father's offending in October 1999 did not amount to a cover-up. He's pled not guilty to one count of concealing a serious indictable offence and said his actions were reasonable given his father's victim, as an adult, later told him he wanted to remain anonymous and did not want to go to the authorities. I can see what's going to come out of this is we're going to get down the mandatory reporting point that if you are told something or you know of something, you have to report it regardless whether the victim wants to remain anonymous, because it's not up to you to keep the victim anonymous. It's up to law enforcement to do that. So his defence argued that prior to Frank Houston's death in 2004, his son made media and public statements about his father's abuse. Throughout his time on the witness stand, he maintained that he had done the right thing by not going to the police and respecting the victim's wishes. He was Frank Houston was stripped of his credentials as a pastor for the AOG Church and died in 2004. So this is how it came about. The court was told at first to detention in October 1999 when the mother of the alleged victim disclosed the matter to travelling evangelical pastor. And then he phoned somebody else, the general manager of the Hills Christian Life Centre, of which Brian Houston was the senior pastor. Everyone calls it Hillsong, but it was actually originally called the Hills Christian Life Centre, Hills CLC. Hillsong was actually the name of the musical group. That's how this is how it's all come about. And so everyone's forgotten Hills Christian Life Centre and just refers to everything as Hillsong now. So someone, the person that was phoned was given a certificate protecting him from prosecution by a magistrate in exchange for his testimony, and he's not been charged with any offence. So that's interesting. So there's been a deal done. Hills Christian Life Centre would later merge with the Sydney Christian Life Centre and become Hillsong. But Hillsong, as I said, was actually the name of the band. Frank Houston was dismissed from the church, removed in late 1999 after he made admissions to Brian about the assault. He was told during a meeting he did not want to go to the police. Mr. Houston says he knew nothing whatsoever of his father's offending until he was told decades later. After he was told by the person at the Hills Christian Life Centre, Mr. Houston said he had a tense and awkward 45-minute meeting with his father, where his father admitted to it. He simply said that did happen. He told me it happened once. He told me what it involved. And he was embarrassed, humiliated, shameful, and remorseful. He said he told his father his credentials as a minister would be removed and he would never preach again. He called a national meeting, an emergency meeting of the national executive of the AOG, who agreed that Frank Houston should be sacked from the church and stripped of his credentials. So Hills Christian Life Centre was initially part of the AOG. Throughout his evidence, Mr. Houston continually told the court that he was asked by the victim not to go to police. The victim was very dogmatic in the fact he didn't want the police involved. And he told the court that he was told that the victim was angry with his mother for disclosing the matter. So we continued, and I told him that he had no option told the victim he had no option but to disclose it to the national executive of the AOG. He got angry, sort of panicky, and said, I don't want to be part of some big church investigation. I don't want my name splashed all over the church. You know how gossipy they are. So the victim gave evidence that he had a phone conversation with Brian Houston, who was defending Frank Houston, and the allegation was that you tempted my father. The victim said that the alleged victim said he told the court that he was shocked by the allegation, but Brian Houston said it was absurd that he would say something like that. It's nonsense. Who would say that to a 7-year-old boy? Again, he kept reiterating that he was doing it was the victim's wishes that he not the information get out. The victim did say that he did concede he had free will to report the matter to police, but did not. When you exercised your free will to report this to the national executive and not to the police, the church was the ultimate authority for you in this matter, the prosecutor said. To which Mr. Houston says, I didn't compare the police and the church about who were the ultimate authority. So during his evidence, Brian Houston revealed he was very recently told of new allegations regarding his father. There's an allegation about Frank from much earlier. Oh, hello, Plan to Create. Yeah, I'm doing good. When I was a very young boy in a boys' home, he worked now we've got the Salvation Army involved. I have my father was a serial, and we'll probably never know the extent of it. He said, in hindsight, the church's response to his father's offending was not acceptable. Great. I don't want to go. Where am I going? So, won't let me go back here. Where did this go? It says more stories before you go. So, essentially, we've got the he said, she said. I was respecting the victim's wishes. I was doing this. So, yeah. I was looked after well. I'm doing okay. I overdid a little bit yesterday, but the doctor sort of reminded me that I'm going to heal on the outside before I heal on the inside. So we're just talking about the Brian Houston matter. So as I said, that's before the court. Oh, that is the end, I think. So what are you making of that? As I said, as a mandatory reporter, the rules have really changed since this Royal Commission into childhood abuse. It's been really tight, so now we have to reveal it. You have an obligation. You have to report it, and it's up to law enforcement. I mean, if the victim doesn't want to be outed, it's up, and they don't generally out child victims anyway. But if it's up to the powers that be to decide about, to deal with the victim about anonymity and everything. It's not up to me. I can't decide about somebody. I can't say, well, we're going to report this, but we've got to keep your name on it. We actually have to report it now for fear of prosecution. This is what happens. What happened with Brian Houston, or what Brian Houston has been alleged or charged of, is exactly what happens if you don't report anything, if you don't report it. So what do you make of all of this? I mean, and there was some money passed from the victim. There has been some money paid. So the victim said it was sort of like that he felt it was hush money hush money. And again, Brian Houston's heard of other things that have happened, but again, he's not reported it. I know that there have been, investigations. So I'd be very interested to see what you think about all of that. Other thing is, I've been checking there's nothing on the court file updating the Katie Joy 7M matter. I've checked that momentarily. I can't sit for long periods of time, so I have to sort of do everything in little spurts at the moment, which is a bit of a pain. This has been so much happening, and I can't keep up with it all. Yeah. So I discovered, it was a good thing I had private health insurance though, because my hospital charged nearly $10,000. It was $9,500 for the private health, for my hospital bed, for my stay in hospital. I think it cost. I think I'm $1,500 out of pocket. So I went private because I didn't know when the public system was going to be come available. So yeah, so there's still nothing. So this is the Katie Joy matter, 7M. So we've got, this is it here. I was saying before, she's now got her tick on Instagram. Yeah. I noticed she got really into the royal family on her Instagram, and really has some opinions on it. I always find it really interesting when she's now a royal expert, but I've been following the whole. Somebody has recovered a scene from Suits where Meghan has had to curtsy, which has really messed up the whole I didn't know how to curtsy thing. I haven't seen any of the documentary. I've just seen snippets of it. I've seen if you're from the US, how was it received in the US? It was, and the UK, I would assume it was met with the same sort of stuff that it was met with here, particularly when you're referring about Her Majesty, who was beloved, and that's our head of state. I'm not saying she's perfect, but that's the Queen. The respect that the Queen has, is undeniable, and you can't take that away. And the Queen had. Even as far as the fact that, she was one of the few women heads of states around the world, and she went to countries that had very low opinions of women. Here is the Queen talking to the best of them. She did more for women than than we can ever imagine. So I just think that she should be treated with a little bit more respect. Is she perfect? No. And I must say, I saw the clip about Harry talking about his brother. Hello, Doom. Merry Christmas to you. And the part where Harry's complaining that William was yelling at him, and I'm going, yeah, he's your brother. Tell me a brother that hasn't yelled at another brother. Siblings yell at each other, don't they? Is he now then going to say that, oh no, we wrestled? He wrestled me? So I'm interested to see what the Americans thought about the docu-series. As I said, it was definitely made for America. It wasn't made for, and I don't want to use the word educated, but it wasn't made for people in the Commonwealth that knew how the system works. It wasn't made for us type thing, because a lot of what they've said we don't believe. I mean, I was interested to see something from all the royal family have a biographer, and the palace has a biographer for Harry, and she said that the cottage that they were complaining about, I think she was disgraceful, and I'm embarrassed. Are you, Terry? Uh, well, apparently a poll in the UK has said that their standing in the UK is so low they may overtake Prince Andrew, and we know how low Prince Andrew's got. No standing in the UK at the moment, and in fact, it's been reported today that the Queen had allowed him to keep an office with very skeleton staff. Well, his brother, the king, has now said, "You don't have an office here. You're not allowed to have an office here. You're not allowed at Buckingham Palace now unless there's a family event or there's something that you'll be involved in." Essentially, King Charles has essentially washed his hands of him. So, and that they're saying that that their popularity is about the same level as Prince Andrew. And it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle the coronation, whether they accept the invitation. It'll be very interesting to see if they go, what reception they get. I don't know that we saw some of that at the Queen's funeral and the public appearances, that people were polite, but they weren't overjoyed. So, and then I think one of the people that I was watching, because as I said, I've been watching lots of stuff because I've had to do bed rest, is one of the reporters that gets stuff from the palace, has a contact in the production team of Netflix, and said that many of the scenes were filmed 2 or 3 times. I mean, you can't tell me that there was a camera there at that exact time that the text came through. You can't tell me that there was a camera there when you got a text from William, or the text came through from Beyonce. You can't tell me that there was a camera sitting there, because that was all planned. And don't forget, they wanted to take a camera in when Her Majesty the Queen was going to meet Lilibet, and the Queen said no. And so their noses were put out of joint then, because that would have been great footage for them to have the Queen meeting. The other interesting thing is that King Charles has not given Archie or Lilibet titles yet. They are entitled to titles now that they are grandchildren of the monarch. So the rules are, it was interesting because one of Katie Joy's stands on her Facebook page was going on about how Prince Andrew's kids were he's a disgrace, and Prince Andrew's kids had the titles of Prince and Princess. Well, Beatrice and Eugenie are actually grandchildren of the Queen. But interestingly enough, Edward and Sophie chose not to have the title of Prince or Princess for their children. You got Lady Louise and Lord James. They've chosen not to do that. They've chosen not to give them the Prince and Princess title. And Sophie and Edward are a classic example of how you can be part of the royal family, live a life quietly out of the media. And while we're talking about, I was reading today that Princess Mary and Prince Frederick from Denmark are in Australia. Now, for those of you that don't know, we call her, well, she's our princess because she's from Australia. Mary, Princess Mary of Denmark, is actually from Mary, Crown Princess of Denmark, is actually Australian. She's actually from Tasmania. And they are spending Christmas in Australia. They're actually going to Tasmania to spend Christmas with her family. So Crown Prince Frederick and Crown Princess Mary with their children, Josephine, I'm just trying to remember, Josephine, Christian, Isabella, Vincent, she's got 4, are all in Australia. Now, this is a woman who came from a little island off the bottom of Australia. She actually had to change religions. She actually was Roman Catholic, or she was Catholic. She had to convert to Lutheran. She actually had to learn a whole new language. She had to, I think she worked for a PR company. She had to step in the shoes of royalty. So this is them in Tasmania, I think. 2004 was when she married Prince Frederick. The Crown Prince's family travel on a private Christmas holiday in Australia to celebrate the holiday with the HRH, the Crown Princess's family. So due to COVID, they haven't been able to get back to Australia. So this is an experience for them. So again, this is somebody who had to change their whole life and embrace a different religion. And in fact, it's been 5 years since that she's been in Australia. She made a surprise trip for her 50th birthday. So this was their wedding. So we call that our princess. So, and the other thing is that Frederick's mother, Queen Margaret, she's 82, not quite as long as Her Majesty Elizabeth. She stripped 4 of her grandchildren of their royal titles, and they were the children of the younger brother. So the younger brother, or the spare, all of his children lost their titles. So your youngest son, Joachim, the father of the affected royal grandchildren, been engaged in peace talks. Heir to the throne, Frederick's 4 children remain unaffected because they're the direct descendants. Frederick has commented on his brother's situation. It's sad to see how he has been affected by this decision. So, yes. So he's got Joachim's got 4 children: Nikolai, Felix, Henrik, and Athena, and they're apparently hurt for losing their titles. So, hey, Harry, it could be worse. But anyway, so that's the Australian, the Australian royal family. And I think what's been really good is that all of Mary's kids have learnt to speak English. Well, they do, but they've had a very active involvement in Australia and Tasmania. So, I think that's been very good. And there's another actress that married into the royal family, and she has been very scathing of Meghan as well. Admittedly, she's a lady, she's a child of one of the Queen's cousins, but she's still part of the extended royal family. And she just said that she's never been treated very badly, and by the royal family. And I think when you think about the timing of when they filmed all of this, it's pretty sad because, Prince Philip was, had passed and everything. So, when he's talking about all these talks and the decisions that his grandmother's had to make, her husband at the time was not very well. Then she loses her husband. having to mourn, and she's having to deal with the behaviour of the grandson. So yeah, I've got a little bit of sympathy for her. But yeah, Charles seems to be, as I said, he's dealt with Andrew, so he apparently is going to mention Harry and Meghan and the children in his Christmas Day speech, which will be released to the world, the first time, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I think the fact that the royal family have really not said anything speaks volumes, and I personally think she did not like not being the centre of attention, but anyway. So we've got Lachlan Murdoch sued Crikey Media for defamation over the coverage of, this is really bizarre, over the coverage of, well, apparently, as we saw, it was to do with the riots, the reporting of the riots in the US. And it's been back and forward into court. There's been mediation, and it's failed. And it's going to really, really stretch. It's going to be very interesting because there is a new defence for public interest. And so far, Murdoch's attempts to quash it has failed. So this was the judgment to say, yes, everything. Yeah, and so then there was an amended defence and never applied to it. So it looks like it's going to be now, they've essentially applied to the court to get the court dates extended because they want to add some more people in. And it says, and this is an opinion piece by Paddy Manning, who says even if Lachlan wins, he loses. Now he's the News Corp co-chairman, and of course in charge, and Fox. So the case is certain to go to trial after a court-ordered attempt at mediation failed on Wednesday. So they've tried to mediate and it's failed. So Lachlan's case over a June opinion piece. So it was an opinion piece. You've got to remember that. He's suing over an opinion piece by a political editor, Bernard Keane, which described the Murdochs as unindicted co-conspirators in the January 6th insurrection in the United States, sparked headlines around the world. Commentators observed that the heir apparent was thin-skinned, unlike his father Rupert, who always thought it was a bad look for a media proprietor to sue a journalist. As if so. And apparently one of their arguments is that Lachlan Murdoch is saying that his opinion in Australia or the world, because of this opinion piece, has lowered. So remember, for defamation, it has to have been said to more than one person. It has to lower someone's standing in the community, and it has to be defamatory, not true. So it says... So this writer says, as if Lachlan could care less about publicity, has a point to prove. As one source told me during research for my biography of Lachlan, he's shown a talent for vengeance throughout his career, culminating in the ouster internal foe Roger Ailes, the legendary Fox News chief executive, sacked over harassment allegation in 2016. Lachlan is angry enough that he's willing to undergo cross-examination, a stressful and potentially embarrassing experience for anybody. And he jealously discards his privacy despite being in a decade. So his last experience in open court was over the collapse of One Tower, when he said, I can't recall, 881 times, and was judged an unreliable witness. Can you remember that? One Tower, hey? So Crikey wants to see Murdoch in court, I guess. And so he doubled down this week, as the masthead reported on Thursday. The media mogul is seeking to expand his claim against Crikey following evidence that its publisher, Private Media, engaged marketing consultants to develop a Lachlan Murdoch campaign. He seeks to join the publisher's chairman, Eric Beecher, and chief executive Will Hayward to the case in a move that could delay any trial to 2024. So now he wants to add more people to it. And then this writer has said, I have worked for both Murdoch and Beecher as a former journalist of the Australian Crikey, and he says it would be foolish to try to express an opinion about the merits of a case which has a long way to run, with plenty of evidence still to come out, much less anticipate the verdict. It's going to be messy. However, he says as a journalist, he naturally favours freedom of the press. American journalists I've spoken to about this case are stunned that you can get sued in Australia for expressing an opinion. But Murdoch camp insists Crikey's marketing campaign is an abuse of free speech, a blatant attempt to drive subscription and revenue. But here's the thing, right? The piece was still written as an opinion piece. It's still someone's opinion. Anyone got any thoughts about that? Inside Fox Corp, executives believe Fox News snuffed out the then President Trump's plan to declare victory prematurely on election night 2020 by being the first to call swing state Arizona for Biden. Therefore, says Fox, the channel simply covered intriguingly newsworthy claims of vote rigging by the Trump campaign. That its defense to a defamation case brought by Dominion voting systems in the US, in which Lachlan sat himself for depositions a week ago, and in which Rupert is soon expected to give sworn testimony in a closed hearing. If it goes to trial next year as expected, Fox will appeal any adverse ruling in the Dominion matter all the way to the US Supreme Court, where it expects to get a sympathetic hearing from a court dominated by conservatives. So they've got the Dominion matter happening in the US, and he's suing an Australian newspaper. So this writer writes, clearly Lachlan's blood is up, but what's the strategy? A multi-billionaire Lachlan does not want or need the money that could flow from a successful judgment against Crikey, even if he proves serious harm was done and damages run to millions. Lachlan Camps insists he wants an apology and the article pulled down. The last time Lachlan successfully sued for defamation, it was this masthead. He donated the settlement proceeds to charity. This masthead is the Sydney Morning Herald. Defeating Crikey could silence an inveterate critic of the Murdoch media and signal widely that Lachlan will fiercely defend his reputation and family. Already there has been a surge of public sympathy for the Underdog website, which has raised more than $500,000 to fund its legal defence, and presumably would increase if Lachlan sent Crikey bankrupt. Let's assume Lachlan is prepared to take this case as far as it will go. Where does that get him? Lachlan's case against Crikey shapes as the first test of the new public interest defence. So yes, there's a public interest defence now in Australia under Australia's recently overhauled national defamation law regime. If it results in a more restrictive interpretation of the provision, it will apply to all media, including the Murdoch media, which he controls, which arguably has the most to lose. So let's take one example. Lachlan's case criticises Keane and Crikey for failing to contact the Murdochs before accusing them of criminal conspiracy. Opinion writers are not obliged to contact people they are writing about, and very often don't. More importantly, having to do so would inimical to the business model which supports Murdoch's own stable of provocative newspaper and paid TV commentators across the country. Did Andrew Bolt obtain the response of 18 Indigenous people before describing them as fair-skinned Aborigines in the 2009 Herald Sun article, and blogs which a judge later found offensive and in breach of the Racial Discrimination Act? That judgment spurred hundreds of articles in the Murdoch press about the need to protect free speech in Australia, and ultimately the fruitless attempt to amend the Act by the Abbott government. Lachlan's camp will say It will dispute at trial whether the original Keane article was an opinion piece and whether the public interest defence applies at all to opinion pieces. But if a judge was to find against Crikey for failing to contact Murdoch, it will rebound on every commentator in the country. When I was writing the successor, Murdoch media executives told me a commitment to free speech was Lachlan's North Star and his habitual response to abundant criticism of both Fox and News. Lachlan may or may not agree with everything Andrew Bolt or Peter Credlin say in print or on air, but he will defend their right to say what they think. The danger for Lachlan, it seems to me, is that even if he wins this case against Crikey, he loses. Very interesting. Hello, Bo. Merry Christmas Eve to you. I have to go. Merry Christmas to you and your families. Hope you have a lovely day. Yes, you too plan to create. I hope you have a good Christmas. So, yes, it's, as I said, it's going to be a test for public interest pieces. But if, for example, opinion pieces now are protected by defamation laws, yes, it essentially puts a whole lot of the Murdoch-owned media in Australia under the same microscope, and it may actually backfire. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see what happens. So yes, it's a case that's hotting up. So I think that's all I wanted to say. Since I've been watching lots and lots of different things and trying to study away, trying to study as much as I can. But yeah, I'm doing all right. My body lets me know when I do too much. As I said, I had the big hysterectomy. Yes, I said the word hysterectomy. Laparoscopic, so that's where they put you put 5 holes across, in different places through the belly button. So endometriosis was found around another organ in the body, so they couldn't actually get it out. So they had to remove some endometriosis away from another organ in the body that had attached itself. So it ended up costing, so I actually had to pay the bill before I could get my money back, so I just paid a $4,000 bill. And so now I've ended up being $1,500 out of pocket. I did have private health insurance, which allowed me to get it done quicker, because otherwise I would have gone on the public hospital waiting list, and that I could have had to have lived with that for a lot longer. And I don't know, to be honest with you, how much longer that I needed. And everything went away for testing, and what came back from the test results is that, yes, it needed to be done. And interestingly enough, the endometriosis was not shown in any scans, and was not shown in any scans. So yeah, he's told me it's going to take me about 8 weeks to heal. Like he said, all your scars on your outside will heal. But he said you've got to remember that your insides have taken a battering. And he showed me pictures, because he took pictures and showed me where the stitches are. And he said, remember that you're all stitched up inside, and that's what you can't see. So I'm driving, but that's about all I can do. And so I just doing lots of rest. So I've decided not to go to Christmas. Usually I'd go to church in the morning Christmas Day and then Christmas with the family. I've decided that I'm going to rest instead of going to church tomorrow, which will be the first time that I've missed in a very long time. And rest, and then I've got energy to spend the day with the family, because I'll get to see Harrison, and Harrison's full of energy and full of beans, and I think that that's more important. And then I can come home later and rest, and then Boxing Day will be another rest day. So Bo, I also had an iron infusion. So I see I have to go back to the doctor on the 25th of January. And in that week before the 25th of January, so the Friday before, I actually have to have a blood test, and just to see that the iron infusion worked, because I actually was really sick. So the day I came out of the surgery, that night, as the anaesthetic was wearing off, I had the iron infusion, and I had a really bad reaction to that, and I actually ended up losing most of it. So hopefully there's enough in there, but hopefully it's got some time to build up. So, because I want to work again, I want to have energy. I've had bouts like yesterday. I was feeling really good. I had bouts of energy, and I started to actually clean a cupboard that I've never had the energy to clean before. So that was really, really good. Yeah. So, I'm hoping that that's going to happen, and suddenly my life is going to, I'm going to actually have energy again and feel good, and be able to work proper jobs, because I haven't been able to, as long as I can remember, I've not been able to keep proper jobs because I actually haven't had the energy. So yeah, anyway, I think I might call it a night or day. What is the time? I don't even know. I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. It's 6:02 on Christmas Eve here. It's still bright because we're in daylight savings, so it's bright. It's like early, let me see what our forecast is going to be tomorrow. Look, with a cast iron skillet. Yes, that's true. Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. So tomorrow. Oh, so I got to 30 today. It was a bit warmish. Remember, we're in degrees. We're in degrees Celsius. So it looks like it's going to be about 30 tomorrow. Just so to give you some perspective for those of you that are in Fahrenheit, 86 tomorrow. Amazing, you've done amazing, you've done so well with I had adenosis. I had that diagnosed, so that's why I had the last surgery to take away the lining. No polar vortex here. Yeah, so 86 Fahrenheit or 30 degrees Celsius tomorrow. And that's the same around the country. Perth is going to be the same. Oh, Adelaide's going to be 32 degrees Celsius. The coldest place to be tomorrow is Hobart. And Brisbane's only going to be 25. Wow. No, sorry, Brisbane's going to be 29. Sydney's going to be 28. So, yeah, so we're going to have 86 tomorrow. So there'll be lots of people at the beach. Lots of barbecues, lots of picnics. We still have the traditional hot Christmas lunch. Doesn't matter what temperature it is. Doesn't matter what temperature it is. You have to have your traditional, or we call it traditional, cold. We usually do lamb, pork, turkey, chicken, beef, lamb, with your potatoes and whatever, and yeah. But anyway, if I don't see you tomorrow, I trust that you will have a very Merry Christmas, Happy Christmas, a safe New Year, and hopefully we will be back to regular programming early next year. So the coldest place in Australia will be 77 degrees Fahrenheit, and the hottest place will be 88 degrees Fahrenheit. It'll be fun watching Bondi Beach Rescue on Christmas Day. Yes. I know, I'm hearing about snowstorms and everyone's talking about how cold it is, and I'm talking about how hot it is. I'm sitting here and I've got my fan. Oh, probably can't see it. I got my windows open. Yeah, it's really weird. Yeah, Bondi Beach will be really busy tomorrow. I have no doubt. All the beaches will be really busy tomorrow. That's where people like to go. Parks. I know lots of people have picnics Christmas Day, but it's a really good chance just for families to get together. So yeah, we'll be as I said, having our traditional Christmas lunch. So as I said, I hope that you have a really happy Christmas, safe Christmas, and I'll see you sometime. Maybe I might see you before the end of the year. Hello, Meemore. I might see you next year. Otherwise, I'll see you. Oh, sorry. I might see you before the end of the year, but otherwise, I will see you next year. Okay. Thank you for all of your support and love this year. I know everything's been messy. Having somebody else in your life has taken up some time, taken up a little bit of time. I know how annoying, eh? So yeah. So anyway, so thank you for all of that. And as I said, hopefully I will catch you again before the end of the year. Not working. Hello.